This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Today we're making Fatteh Djej, a layered chicken and rice dish with a tahini yogurt sauce that is perfect for weeknights. It's a very simple recipe but also so easy to customize. We're going to make two versions, a traditional Fatteh and then a 15-minute weeknight version with the help of a few shortcuts.
To recap a little, Fattehs are a type of dish that are made with crispy bread as a base. We've done quite a few of them on the channel, and both the aubergine Fatteh and hummus Fatteh are great weeknight dinners. Traditionally, these dishes were made to use up stale old bread as well as any leftovers you might have, but we'll be making everything fresh. Of course, that means the first thing you need to consider is the crispy bread, which goes into both the traditional and fast versions. Rather than using stale bread, we'll be preparing fresh pittas and turning them into crispy chips like this. The two ways you can make these is fast and fried or healthy and baked. Both of them start with thin pita breads like these, and you want to stay away from thicker ones because they'll get too crunchy. You'll need 4 regular sized pittas or 6 of these smaller ones, and they should be sliced into squares about this big. You'll be left with a mountain of pitta, and these chips do get pretty delicious, so don't worry about making any extra. To make the baked pitta chips, place your pitta on a baking tray and then sprinkle them with a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper and about a tablespoon of olive oil. Toss these together so that all of the pieces are thoroughly coated, then spread them out into an even layer. Give each piece as much space as possible, then place the tray into an oven preheated to 180 degrees Celsius. After about 5 minutes, pull them out of the oven and give them a good toss before returning them to the oven. Leave them for 3 to 5 minutes more, and once they're this golden colour, pull them out and they're ready to eat. These pieces are seriously crispy. They make a great snack and will be perfect for the Fatteh. The quicker and easier method is to fry the pitta, but it's both messier and obviously not as healthy. Prepare an oven tray with a wire rack, then cover that in a couple of paper towels. Fill a frying pan with about 2 cm of vegetable oil, then turn the heat to high and allow it to heat up. Once it has heated, add in a load of pitta chips and they'll start crisping up right away. Give them about 30 seconds, flipping them over halfway, and once they start to brown like this, pull them out of the oil. Let them drain, then place them on the paper towel lined tray, and while they're still hot, hit them with a sprinkle of salt and pepper. Make sure to give them a brief toss so they're evenly coated, then spread them out to drain on the kitchen towels. Personally, I prefer the taste and texture of these fried ones, but they are definitely not healthy. To make the traditional Fatteh, we'll also need to cook some chicken and make a lightly spiced chicken broth, which packs in loads of flavour. That starts by melting 1 tablespoon of butter in a pot over medium heat. If you have Greek mastic, then add 2 small pieces to the melting butter. Add in 1/2 teaspoon of black peppercorns, 5 cardamom pods and 3 small bay leaves, then toast them in the butter until you can smell the aroma. Next, add in 2 small onions roughly chopped into quarters and follow that up with 3 cloves of garlic, which should be lightly smashed. Saute them for a couple of minutes until lightly singed, then add in your chicken. We're using 500 grams of chicken breast, though this can be replaced with a small whole chicken. Give your chicken a sear for a few minutes until it's a little browned like this, then you'll pour in about 2 litres of water. Let that come to a light boil, and when there's a layer of scum on the surface like this, use a ladle or strainer to skim it off. When that's done, we'll add 2 teaspoons of salt, then let this cook for about 25 minutes on a medium simmer. Once the time is up, your chicken should be fork tender, and although it appears a little plain, it's going to have loads of great flavour from the spices and the onion. Apart from the chicken, this broth will also be wonderfully flavoured, and we're going to be using this quite a bit in this dish. The next step is to make some rice, and we're going to be using the chicken broth to infuse it with chicken flavour. Start off by melting about 3 tablespoons of butter over medium heat, then adding 2 small pieces of mastic if you have them. Let the mastic melt, then add in 3 cups of medium grain rice, which has been washed thoroughly and drained. The rice needs to be fried in the butter for 3 to 4 minutes until it starts to toast, then you can start adding in some stock. I'm using a strainer to filter out any spices or pieces of onion, and you want to add enough stock to cover the rice by about 1 cm. After that, you'll add in 1 teaspoon of salt as the stock is already a little salty. Finally, you'll add in a can of cooked chickpeas, and these have been drained from their liquid and washed before mixing them into the rice. Bring the pot to a boil, then cover it with a lid and allow this to boil away for a couple of minutes. Once the level of water has dropped below the rice like this, turn the heat down to low and cover it once more, then let it steam for 20 minutes.
That's plenty of time for me to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark VPN. Surfshark is a virtual private network, which in layman's terms you can think of as your own private area of the internet. Every time you use the internet through your phone or computer or any device, you're sending loads of information back and forth which can be snooped on. Surfshark VPN encrypts your data so that nobody can steal it, and that means you can connect to sketchy public Wi-Fi without having to worry. Even at home, I use Surfshark to hide my data from websites I'm on, like when I'm trying to watch a series that isn't available in the UK. Apparently there's an Egyptian version of Suits the TV show, and although I'm subscribed to the right streaming service, I still can't watch it. Not to worry, Surfshark has 3,200 servers in 65 countries, including Egypt. I can connect to Surfshark's Egypt server and get right back to watching this unusually good remake. So if you want to keep your data safe and get around annoying restrictions, Surfshark is giving my subscribers 83% off and 3 extra months for free. All you have to do is go to surfshark.deal/middleeats and there's even a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's 83% off plus 3 free months using the code MIDDLEEATS. Thank you, Surfshark.
When the timer is up, the rice will look like this, and you should fluff it up with a fork, then keep it covered and set it aside until it's needed. The final thing we need to prepare is a tahini yogurt sauce, which we'll pour over the final dish. Add 45 grams of tahini to a mixing bowl, then follow that up with 350 grams of yogurt. Mix the two together until the tahini is well dispersed, then pour in 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Add in 2 cloves of garlic, which should be freshly minced, then half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and a quarter teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Mix those into the yogurt until they're evenly spread, then you'll add in half to 3/4 of a cup of the chicken stock. Whisk this into the yogurt until they are well combined, and you want the final texture to be a little thick like this. Before assembling the fatteh, you'll need to shred the chicken breast into large chunks. We're going for pieces about this big, which will look good when served, but you can make them smaller. For a modern take on this fatteh, we'll be giving the chicken a spice coating in our faster version of the dish, but this one will keep as is. I also made some fried almonds to garnish with. To a pan I added a couple tablespoons of clarified butter, then about a quarter cup of blanched almonds. These were fried until golden, then pulled out and allowed to drain on some paper towels, before sprinkling them with salt. To assemble, I added a fifth of the bread to a bowl, then poured over 2 tablespoons of the warm chicken stock. That was tossed slightly in the stock to moisten it, and then I transferred that to a new bowl, making sure to leave behind the excess stock. Onto the bread went a couple tablespoons of the tahini sauce, and then that was topped with some of the rice. About 2 more tablespoons of stock was poured evenly over the rice, then a bit more tahini sauce. Next I placed on a pile of the large chicken pieces, then I spooned over plenty of the tahini sauce to cover the dish. Finally, it's time to garnish by tossing on some fried almonds, giving it a pinch of finely chopped parsley, and then sprinkling over a little bit of Aleppo pepper flakes. Lastly, we added on a little more of the crispy bread, and that was the traditional fatteh all done. Usually this is served in a large platter, but we chose to serve it this way for the video. Once plated, you should dig in immediately while the bread is still crispy and enjoy the lovely contrasts and textures as well as the great flavours. To make the faster one, we're going to use a few substitutes that will make your life easier. Instead of cooking some chicken yourself, get a rotisserie chicken from a store and shred that to get the chunks of meat. In place of the stock, you can get some pre-made stock like this, or you can use a stock cube to make some chicken stock. For the rice, you can use microwavable packets of rice or any leftover rice that you might have in the fridge. To make the chicken a little more interesting, we'll coat it in a few spices, though you could use something like our shawarma spice mix instead. To a pan we added 2 tablespoons of butter, then added 1 teaspoon of paprika and half a teaspoon each of salt, black pepper, Aleppo pepper flakes and baharat or 7 spice. We also added a quarter teaspoon each of cardamom and coriander, then mixed that all into the melted butter. Lastly we minced and added in 3 cloves of garlic, then cooked that for about 20 seconds before adding the chicken. This was tossed in the spices for a few seconds and we added in a little stock just to give it some extra moisture. Once heated through, we added in 2 tablespoons of finely chopped parsley, then mixed that in until our chicken looked like this. To plate, it's exactly the same as the first one, except this time we obviously used the spiced chicken. That also got the same optional garnishes and then it was ready to serve. To me this is a more interesting version of the dish because of the spiced chicken, but all of the shortcuts mentioned above make it a perfect weeknight meal. Right before serving, it's traditional to heat up some butter until boiling, then pour that right over the dish before you dig in.
Just listen to the crispy bread. Oh yeah. That was a pretty awesome dish, and the fact that it comes together so quickly is mind-blowing. But if you're interested in other easy fatteh dishes, check out this video over here.